So today's objective is to be able to construct and measure angles using our little tool, right? I think I have one of these somewhere in here. I don't know. Maybe I have one. Let's see. Why is it so slow? Really? Nope. Okay, whatever. Goodbye. All right, so we're going to use our protractor, which hopefully you know what that looks like, to make straight lines. Okay, so again, a protractor has to do with angles on the top, but on the bottom, it helps you make straight lines, right? And we don't have headphones in our ears because we are listening, right? Okay, so on number one, an acute angle. You should have, again, you're using a protractor, so it'll look like this. Straight line, straight line. Something that is acute is less than 90, right? Cool. A right triangle will make exactly a 90-degree angle. Cool. Whatever. Okay, obtuse sounds like obese, kind of. Just means big, right? So bigger than 90, larger than 90 degrees. What's a straight angle? Straight line, okay? 180 degrees. So we had less than 90 for number one, equal to 90 number two, more than 90 for number three, and exactly 180 for number four. Cool? Cool. So what you want to do is you want to pass those up. Make sure your name's on the top. Pass them all the way to the front. Again, it should be not too hard of a grade. Get your warm-ups done every week, okay? Right? You all right? All right, we're passing those up. So, all right, you pass those back, and she's passing those up. You're passing that way. I'll pass it up. I'll come get them in 1 second. Is there anybody behind you? Is that somebody behind you? Okay. Okay. All right. So, in front of you, you should have this using a protractor. But real quick, y'all see this protractor, right? So, this is not something to spin around in a circle. It's not something to make a helicopter with, okay? It's not something to put on your ear. It's not a weapon in your hand. It's not a sad face or a happy face. It is not something to throw. It's not something to leave on the ground. It's not something to scrape along the desk because then the numbers will wear off. Don't steal it. Don't leave it on the ground. Don't leave it on the desk. Don't break it. Don't break it and then not tell me. Don't flush it down the toilet. There's a million things you could not do with it. What you could just do is just when you see it, you grab it. When you need to use it, you use it. And when at the end of the day, you put it back where you found it. That's the responsible thing to do. Yes? No, most of them, yes. Most people do one of those things, okay? Even I sometimes will get fidgety, but don't get fidgety, cool? Now, we want to know how to use this. And real talk, these numbers fade away when you mess around too much with them, so I don't want to have to replace these. We just got them, so be nice to my protractors. Now, we need to know how to use these protractors, so that's what we're going to do. First of all, do y'all know how to classify these four angles? What kind of angle is this first one? Less than 90. So acute. What about this one? Acute. What about this one? Bigger than 90, so obtuse. And then this one, it is also obtuse. Now, what we want to do is use a protractor to measure the angles. Okay? So, how many of y'all have used a protractor before? All right, so you may already know this. Some people don't, and some of us who know it might need a refresher because not every protractor is the same. So here's what I want you to do. Okay, I'm going to write little steps down here. Does everyone see there's like a little circle right here? Okay, that's the center of the protractor. And does everyone know what the name of this point on a angle is? What's this called? Don't say corner, but it starts with a V. Vertex. So you have a center of a protractor. You have a vertex. You're going to center the protractor. So go ahead and put that circle on top of that vertex, okay? Bless you. Now, I have it centered, but I don't want to start measuring yet because do you see the line right here on this protractor? And then there's a line down here on this, the ray of the angle. Those need to be lined up. Okay, so my second thing I need to do is line it up. So you do that by rotating it. Rotate till you have the lines lined up right here and the center in the circle, right in the center. Okay, let's try a little bit. Sometimes when you let go, it moves. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So this is pretty close to being exactly on a number. Now, what do you notice about the edge? There's what? Numbers, meaning there's more than one number, right? So you could say 140 or you could say 40. But they're not both right. Okay, obviously this angle is one answer, okay? So we need to know which ones to use. Let me make sure that's on. Okay. So let's back up. What kind of angle is it again? Acute. Acute is less than 90. So why would I pick 140 for an acute angle? I wouldn't, right? So here's the deal. There is no rule. You can't just always use the outside or just always use the inside. It honestly depends which way you're measuring from. Okay? So here's how you know which numbers to use. Always think about, is it acute or obtuse? Does my number make any sense with my measurement? Okay? You have to think critically. You can't just put a random number just because you think you did the right steps. Check it. Okay? So the smaller number is pretty close to 40. So we're going to put 40 degrees. Now I'll tell you right now, the answers are not always in increments of 5 or 10. Okay? But this one is. Cool. All right. So we got another angle over here. Again, let's center it on the vertex and line it up. Now, it's a little bit, it's not perfect, okay? Now, I know the way you measured it, it may have been exactly on. But there are some times where it's not exactly on. So I want us to know how to measure this. So let's say that my measurement is on point. What kind of angle is that again? Acute, right? So it goes right about there. And there's sometimes people make a mistake. So look right here. Listen right here. This is not 34. Okay? I know there's a 30 right there. And I know you can count 4. But I want you to tell me, this line is between what two numbers? It's between 30 and 20. So 34 is not between 30 and 20, right? It's not bigger than 30. So here's the deal. Pick the smaller number and count from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 26. Okay? So you see how it matters where you're counting from. So be careful. Okay? Always think, what's it between? Make sure that number's between. Okay? So I'm going to put 26 degrees. Okay, so let's do the same thing on this angle. What kind of angle is it again? Obtuse. So I want you to center it on that vertex and line it up, and then we're going to measure it. I'll get you the sheet. So. All right, here we go. So I'm going to, now if it's really obtuse, I'll make sure I put a point at the vertex. Gonna line it up. Sorry, center it. Line it up. Third one. And now, again, we said this is obtuse. I'm not going to use the one next to 20, right? I'm not using small numbers because it's obtuse. Now, the inside numbers I can see, what is it between? What and what? Between 150 and 160. So it's going to be a 150 something, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 158 for me. Okay? Now, real quick, if you just barely move these things, it can mess it up a whole lot of, it's very precise. So I understand if you're like one off, okay, or maybe even 2 off, that's kind of a lot. But again, I'm not going to be super strict. I mean, if you're close, I get it. Okay, you know how to measure. Sometimes if your centering is just a little bit off or your lines just a little bit off, it'll be a degree off. Okay, but be careful. Last one down here, another obtuse one. So there's my vertex. I'm going to center it, line it up, and I'm using the bigger numbers. Between what and what? Between 100 and 110. So it's 105, 106. It's about 107. Last class I got 108. So that just shows you, like, depending on when you do it. So I'm going to put 107 degrees, but you might have gotten 108. That's fine, okay? So any questions on how I got those? Again, our steps are center it, line it up, and we're looking for the numbers that match the classification. Flip it over, please. Now, you might be able to measure, but can you create, or, let's write this word down, construct an angle? Remember, what we're doing now is called constructions because you are making something out of straight edges. Straight edge and a protractor. All right, so let's write down some steps here. First step. Now, you're not going to usually have this line. You'll just have a blank sheet, and you need to make your own angles. Okay? So your step 1, draw a line. Now, the line's already drawn for you. Step 2 is put a point at the end. Or draw a point at the end. I should have put end point. Whatever. So right here on the left, go ahead and put a dot there to signify that's your point. Okay? And then your next 2 steps are kind of like when you measure. You're going to center it and line it up. So let me show you what I mean. So check it out. The center, put it on that point you made at the end. Make sure it's lined up nicely. And this next part is kind of like measuring. I need to find 45 degrees. So am I going to use the inside or the outside numbers? Well, outside is pretty big. So 45 going from here, starting at 0 to 45. So between 40 and 50 right here, right? So to make that angle, I want you to put a little dot, a little mark, right at 45. Okay? Your last step. Use the straight edge of your protractor to line it up from the end point of the line that you started with and the point you just marked, and then just draw a line using your pencil. And what do you know? 45 degrees. Boom. Okay? On the second one, again, the line's already drawn for you. Now we need to draw a point at the end. So put a point here. And once again, center it, line it up. Now, I'm trying to do 135 degrees. If I put a point at this 135, that would make an acute angle, right? So we always got to think, is this matching? 135 is obviously obtuse. It's greater than 90. So I need to go all the way to this side over here. And where's 135? Between 130 and 140. So I'm going to put a little point at this 135 because that would make it greater than 90. Because 135 is greater than 90. 135, right? So connect your original point to your new point. Questions? So, I put a point there. I lined it up. And then I found 135 over here, between 130 and 140. If you did it over here, that's going to make it acute. So, all right. So you try 3 and 4. Give you a couple minutes. Right, let's do this. Number 3, did you make a 31 degree in geometry with Mr. G? This weekend is going to be 3. All right, check it out. And this is number 3. All right, so put a point here. All right, I line it up. Now, real quick, 31 degrees. Here's 30. It's acute. Don't guess where 31 is. Okay? So if you go to the outside and you go over 1, that's 31 degrees. Okay? Now, if you guessed it, you're probably close enough. But I'm just saying, like, you can use those on the outside to be precise. 31 degrees. Boom! Next one. 163 degrees. So put the point at the edge, center it, line it up. Okay, now 163. I'm not going to do it out here because that would make it really acute. Way out here, 163. Now, again, don't guess where 163 is. Use the outside. 1, 2, 3. That's very obtuse, right? Boom. Now, you're going to use that information to do this practice real quick. Hold on. Okay. Work. 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 Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. So look up here at the board. I'm going to pass out to you some scratch paper. And what you're going to do is you're going to construct 5 angles. I want you, just random. You don't have to measure them. Just make 2 acute angles, 2 obtuse angles, and one of them you got to measure is the right angle. Okay, make sure it's right. What? After this. So what are we doing so far? What are we doing? We're going to construct 2 acute, 2 obtuse, and 1 right. And then once you make those, you're going to have a friend of yours measure them. So make sure your name's at the top of this page. Once you make those 5 angles, I'm going to give you 2 minutes starting once I pass these out. Less than 90. So once you have made those 5 angles, I want you to switch with somebody, and they're going to measure your angles, and they're going to write the degrees down. You don't write the degrees down. The person who measures them. Yeah, just make angles, switch, then you measure them. So, yeah, you're just kind of random, but please use the straight line so they can measure them. Cool? And then after that, you can switch it back and check their answers. Cool? So right now, make 5 angles. If you're done before those 2 minutes, you can switch with somebody. I don't know. All right, so you should have been able to make 5 angles. Find someone to switch with, okay? If you're really opposed to finding someone to switch with, you can measure your own. But I'd like for you to switch with someone. That way you can measure theirs, and then you can check them after that.